But what inspired this whole thing? You can take me through the story.
Do you want to hear it?
Let's hear the story.
This is like a many years thing. So I had years ago, probably about 20 years ago, I was just listening to this guy that was sharing his experience with his daughter. And he just all of a sudden just kind of just stopped saying, I really feel like I need to share this experience I had with my daughter. His daughter was, I don't know what happened. She was struggling with depression or whatever it was. Something where as a father, he felt like he couldn't influence her. And she was really struggling. And so he said he just had this almost like a vision all of a sudden that opened up to him about his daughter, where he saw these 1,000 threads of light that were kind of just anchored to her from people on both sides, like those who had died, those that were around her, like, and where he all of a sudden understood his daughter was going to be okay, because she had these threads that could pull on her that wouldn't let her fall. And that was a real comfort to him. I don't know why that idea just lasered into my brain. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I wonder if we all have that. And so what happened to me this year, you know, and eventually you're going to hear a few things from different people, you know, have been some of my threads of light is what I call them. These people have been my anchors. And there's a pattern that I learned in that. These people that have been anchors for me have typically been people who have some kind of connection where they look upward, and they draw strength from that. And then they're also people who have understood, they take that strength and then they look outward. And so what I thought is, what happened to me a year ago is I had a good dear friend that lived next door. Every time I would drive past, this is going to be about your dad and I. So I just kept thinking, his name was Carlos, Carlos is not okay. You should go talk to him about what you know about, he had lost his mom. I think he'd lost his son. I don't know if you guys know, Nye actually has a brother. There was a big accident years ago, and I think that was hard for Carlos. So I knew some things where I'm like, Carlos, just go talk to Carlos. I'm like, why would I do that? I'm not going to make a difference to Carlos if I share that. I just kind of doubted myself in a big way, and unfortunately, I missed this moment. My air conditioning unit had gone out. I live in Arizona. It was a little hot in my house, so I wasn't around, but Carlos chose to end his life right next door. And I can't tell you the immense guilt I felt because I had never acted on that thought I'd had, which is Carlos needs you. And I just didn't act on it. And so I was not his thread. And there's nothing I can do about that today, right? I missed my moment. And so what happened to me this year is I actually had come home. I'd gotten really sick, gotten the flu in the middle of the summer, had just been to a really great family reunion, and just been having one of those moments when, you know, sometimes you don't feel well, where I'm just like, you know, I just felt like I wasn't making the progress that I wanted to for myself in life, just being what I want to become. And anyway, I literally had a moment where I was this sick, where I'm just like, well, then just let me die. And do you know what happens 2 days later? I had a massive seizure, and I ended up in the ER to find out I actually had cancer in my brain. And I thought, so what's kind of happened and evolved for me is I don't want to focus on the cancer. That's the big thought that's come to me is, well, Candace, you have your moment. You don't ever have to have another Carlos moment happen in your life. Like, I'm telling you who to go help. So then do it. And so my big thought, instead of focusing on the cancer, is to actually do this podcast that I'm going to call Look Upward and Look Outward. It's my LULOThreads podcast, where I want to talk about my 1,000 threads. Their stories are pretty amazing. And I think I would love to just pay it forward to them. But I also think some of their stories might help some other people, where they might become a thread for them, right? And someone needs to hear what they have to say. They might get some inspiration from it and feel like, hey, I've got this. So that's kind of my inspiration behind, I thought instead of cancer, I'm going to focus on this podcast. You might see, I'm going to be really honest. I'm going to show it, guys. I thought I probably will constantly have a bald head because I'm going through a lot of chemotherapy and stuff. I can't move. I've lost the use of most of my left hand just because that's what the tumor has done. And I thought, So I've got helpers. You can't see them right now. They're all around me right now. Some of my threads are sitting in this room with me right now. Just to say, but they can be my hands. They can be what I need that I don't have. I've literally had people who have just come and reached around me and just been these threads for me through this experience. So, but I also can be that even though I'm sick, right? And now my hair's a mess. Did I cover that bald spot?
You did. You got it covered. Yeah.
Just so people don't freak out. Giovanni still will not look at my head. It really bothers him. So I'm like, that's her brother. So I think that's really the inspiration behind the podcast. And I just want to pay it forward. And everyone matters. That's the one thing I've learned. And sometimes each of us are the very thing that someone needs. And we are given it's who we are that can actually be that anchor or thread for someone. And we don't doubt yourself. I'm hoping I can help people understand that too. You are what someone needs today, especially if they come to your mind. So
that point really touches on my next question. I was just going to say, if there's somebody that's going through just anything that's really severe that they maybe don't want to say, or maybe do want to tell people or whatever, but just any sort of trauma or mental health issues or whatever
sure.
it might be, what is something that you would say to them? I guess if you could speak to Carlos, what would you say?
If I could talk to Carlos today, I think I would probably share the thing I felt I should with him, which is, look, there's really great stuff ahead when we die. And maybe I've had to face that giant myself. Death isn't the end. It's actually just a new phase for each of us. And we get to learn while we're here. And so part of all this to me is just first of all, know you're loved and get strength from that. And you're not going to find that from yourself. You really do have to seek that higher being, however you believe in that higher being. Because I know there's a lot of different beliefs in the world around that. But you said you have to anchor there first and draw that strength from there. And then you'll start to understand who you are and why you're here. And that's been my lesson through all this is he's not going to let me die. He's actually given me a second chance here to actually understand who I am and the things that I can bring that he's given me. And he's expecting me to pay it forward. He's expecting me to think of someone else today. That's what I would say too. That's actually a happier place to be than like, woe is me. Just because I can't understand what, or process what's going on with me. Quite often that gets solved as I reach out to others.
What would you say is, you've talked about like wanting them to be, not everyone's public, like depending on the people,
right?
Their opinion on what should, or even if they do written or video or audio
sure.
formats. But what would, and maybe that's not exactly the case. Maybe you do want to keep it within your 1,000 threads of light. But would you ever want it to be something that could inspire your threads of light?
Everyone has their threads. Like each of you in this room has your threads. They're not mine. They're yours. So absolutely. What I'm finding is once I meet people, my magic superhero power is I actually really do love to understand what makes people tick. And just like what inspires you to get up and get out of bed today, right? What are you passionate about? What gets you excited? I think once I understand that, if they come into my realm, yeah, I would totally get with the stranger. Is that what you're saying, Jacob? Mm-hmm. I totally would say, let me hear your story. Like I said, every person has something that only they can do. And so if anyone's hearing this and you're seeing this and you're like, oh, I have a story to tell, I think we'll probably have to find a way where we can say, yeah, it might be you might be better at writing it. I do have a studio in my home that I'm setting up where I think I can have people come. And what's great is I get to, that's where probably for more so my threads, but there might be somewhere like your story really needs to be told. And let's tell it. I think, let's pay it forward, right? LULOThreads. do your LULO today. And what's amazing is I bet eventually we're connected in some way. I just can't see it yet.
Is there anything I missed? Anything you'd like to?
I think
touch on?
that's probably the biggest stuff there. Is that enough, you guys?
Yeah.
Is it clear?
I've got one more question for you.
Yeah.
What is it that and perhaps you've already touched on it, but what is it that makes you tick?
What makes me tick?
Mm-hmm.
I love. It's kind of like what I said. I actually love people, and I found people are the magic sauce that actually matter in life. And it's our shared experiences that we have. It's finding out what that is. What's the thing we have in common that we both get excited about? That's what excites me, is finding what is that. So you're hearing from some of the people in this video where I have found that with them. And I'm hoping that you'll draw some great inspiration from what you hear from all these people that are some of my threads right now. And some of them I just met like a month ago. And I haven't known some of them for long. You can make those connections without having, huge amounts of time of knowing someone. I have felt that in minutes with people before. That's what makes me excited. That's what makes me tick. And I think it's finding what I can do for others. And we all have different situations. I thought with mine, like I said, I've got cancer. I mean, I'll be frank, there's a lot of things I wish would have happened in my life that haven't. And I thought, and you really do have to take what you've been given, and that's what you move forward with. So it doesn't look the same. Like what you guys have experienced and what I experienced, it's all different. And I think it's just, again, what's the thing that we share that makes us connect?